what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
This podcast is sponsored by the 2019 Foot Candle Film Festival. This year's festival will be held September 27th through the 29th in Hickory, North Carolina. Learn more by visiting footcandlefilmfestival.com.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Exchange on the Mesh Podcast Network, a monthly conversation about startups and small business with ideas, tools, and advice to operate your business more effectively. On today's show, we'll talk a little bit about capital and how difficult it is to get these days. We've got a guest today, Chris Daly, who is an entrepreneur, internet marketing expert, and has recently started a new venture called Smart CRO. Through our investigative journalistic efforts, we're going to determine what CRO stands for. Finally, we'll end up with our Small Business of the Month feature, where we'll highlight some interesting businesses that you need to be checking out. Hello, my name is Jeff Newville. I'm your co-host and director of the Small Business Center at Catawba Valley Community College in Hickory, North Carolina. I'm joined by my co-host, Gary Muller, who is the Dean of the School of Business, Industry, and Technology at Catawba Valley Community College. Gary, how you doing, buddy?
Jeff, I'm doing great. Although I have to tell you, I thought the summer was supposed to be slower at the college. It is not slow in any means.
Well, we're here towards the end of May, and you got some kids graduated.
Yes, that was very exciting. We did that about a week or so ago, and it's always a fun thing to watch them walk across the stage and pick up a diploma.
Well, and then hopefully they're moving on, maybe going to a 4-year school, maybe going to get a job somewhere, and be contributors to our society.
Hopefully good contributors. But yes, that's the good thing about the community college. We'll get to see students that are going to go on to a 4-year college to take on more courses, and many of our students go directly into the workforce. And these days, most of our folks that are in our technical programs have a job before they graduate, so that's very exciting.
Well, we all appreciate the good works that you do, and the community college system, and particularly in North Carolina, is very significant in our state and important to helping to build our workforce. So we appreciate your work. Right. But we're going to talk a little bit before we get started with Chris. I was at the Kauffman Foundation, which is a foundation that promotes entrepreneurship, website this week. And they had their most recent report out for access to capital for entrepreneurs. And guess what, Gary? There are still challenges out there.
Even in this economy.
Even in this economy, that there's still access to capital. You're a big watcher of Shark Tank.
Yes, I am.
And I think sometimes people watch Shark Tank and they assume that there are lots of investors out there that want to write checks and throw money at people, and not so much.
Not so much.
No.
It's still got to be a good idea. And then, of course, banks or investors are really looking to make sure it's the best deal possible. They don't, even though it's a good economy, they don't want to be throwing good dollars after bad.
One of the things that they bring out in the report, and if you go to the Kauffman Foundation website, you can download the entire report. But interestingly, when it comes to venture capital, private equity, there are some real geographic limitations. There are 5 geographic locations within the United States that receive about 80% of all the capital funding. What do you think those 5 are?
Hickory?
No, that's not on the list.
Hickory,
North Carolina is not on the list.
Gracious. Okay. New York.
New York City Metro is one of them.
Los Angeles?
That
Metro?
is one. Los Angeles, Orange County is one of them.
Okay. Chicago?
No.
No, they don't do much up there.
No, stay west.
Stay west. Phoenix?
Not further west. So
California, San Francisco?
San Francisco is one. Silicon Valley, which I might have group those together.
Yeah.
And New England are the others. They say New England.
When did New England become a state?
I think when the Patriots won the last Super Bowl.
I guess they probably have that right now.
So and for those of us that live here, they says 5. We would say 2. It's California and North. Are the 2 places they get the venture capital. And I suspect that folks that have started businesses are very aware of this. But if you're thinking about starting a business, still sources of startup capital, 64.4% still come from the owner's savings or directly from the owner or the owner's family. Another 8.7 come from not necessarily the owner's family, but relatives or friends that the owner might know. 16.5% comes from bank loans. So, I mean, those are still really the biggest places. Credit cards still up there. So private equity or equity capital still very, very small. It's sort of a sliver that's out there. And generally it's going to be going towards more scalable, not necessarily technology companies, but primarily scalable companies that are going to provide some pretty darn healthy returns. So, if you're in the startup mode out there, don't get discouraged, but also understand that bootstrapping and doing a lot of self-financing is going to be critical for your success.
Well, I think it's important to be realistic. Saying, hey, I got this idea, and then people are going to throw money at it. They need to understand what they're up against and how they're going to do it, so that making sure they've got some of their own money or family money that's going to help them get started and protect them in the startup stage.
So, we don't mean to be the bringers of bad news or anything, but I think being realistic, as you said, is sort of the key. Sort of the key there. So, anyway, I always like to start with a little bit of news or articles, whatnot, but we also are pleased today to have a guest join us. We'd like to welcome Chris Daly to the Entrepreneur Exchange. Chris, how are you doing?
Doing great. I'm excited to be here with you guys.
Well, we're excited you're with us.
So, Chris has recently started a new company called Smart CRO, which helps companies build websites that are sustainable, provide high impact. He's got over 7 years of experience with CRO, which stands for...
I've been waiting to know what that is for the last 5 minutes.
Conversion rate optimization.
Wow.
I didn't. I might have known that before I met Chris. Maybe I didn't. But anyway, he has built out CRO-specific teams to help with design, development, and strategy. And really, he's had a great focus on increasing conversion rates. It's great when someone visits a website, but it's always better if they turn into a paying customer. So anyway, Chris, welcome, and tell us a little bit about your new company and some of your background.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm a longtime digital marketer. I've been doing marketing, online marketing, for the last 10 years. And the first couple of years of my career were spent driving traffic to websites. So I helped people run advertising campaigns. I spent a lot of time helping companies get ranked on Google when people search for things on Google. And I ended up discovering conversion rate optimization, or CRO, about 7 years ago. I was driving a lot of traffic to a site. I was working in-house at a company, and after about 6 months of driving a lot of traffic, we realized we weren't converting nearly as many people as we thought we should be. And so as I started to dig into things and go, what's happening? Why are these people not converting? No one could really help me understand that, because it was nobody's job at the company I was at. There was a design team, and the design team's job was to make sure that our site looked good and had a good look and feel. Our development team's job was to make sure that the site worked and wasn't broken. The marketing team's job was to make sure that we had good ideas and messaging and all that kind of stuff. But nobody was really making sure and trying to figure out, what do the users, like people that are coming to our website, what do they actually want to see? And so I discovered this industry called conversion rate optimization and just fell in love. I ran my first. We do a lot of what's called A/B testing, where you'll take your existing site and you'll test it against a new version of your site. It might be just changing something like the content on the page, or you might be changing an image or a video on the page. And the idea is that you split traffic between the two and see which one converts more people. So I ran my very first test and saw like a 15% increase in conversion rates, and thought, wow, like I'm onto something here. And when I first started, I had no clue what I was doing. I was just kind of making stuff up as I went along. I would look at a site and go, oh, well, I don't like that thing. Let me run a test and I'll try changing it and see what happens. And so, as happens with a lot of businesses, you get lucky, you have a few wins here and there, but it's not very sustainable to be trying to optimize conversion rates like that, because you can't always guess what people are going to want to see on a website. In fact, I've found that over 50% of the time, even after running tests on websites for 7 years, over 50% of the time, I'm wrong as to what is going to work best on a website. And I find that rate is even higher for business owners and for designers, because a lot of times business owners, designers think that we think that we know what's going to work best on a website. And so we often don't challenge our own ideas. And so basically my new company, what I've created and what I'm working on helping businesses do is I'm working on helping businesses create their own strategies and processes to figure out how can we create a great website experience? How can we create an experience that will resonate with our customers when they come here so that they want to take action and convert?
Well, that's great. And this is a new venture for you. Although looking at your background, you've started some of your own things before. So as you're cranking up, just as an entrepreneur, what are some of the challenges that you're running into with your new business? I'm assuming, which isn't always safe to do, that your business is one that does not have a great amount of startup capital requirements, that it's primarily a service business, so it's not like you're out there pitching to private equity people looking for money at this point in time. But what are some of the challenges that you as an entrepreneur are facing that you can share with our listeners and maybe help them avoid some of those obstacles?
Yeah, so there's a few things. I mean, and like you said, I have done this before, and it's interesting how it all feels new again. And so, I thought that starting a new company would be just going through the routine again. But there's a lot of challenges. One of the biggest challenges at the beginning that I've seen, both with my first company I started and with this company, is there are so many things to do. There's so much that needs to happen in order to get your business first just like off the ground and official, and then second to actually start generating income, that it's easy to get lost in it, especially when if you have an entire day of time, you have however much time you want to spend on your business, whether it's 4 hours or 6 hours or 8 hours or 14 hours in one day, you have kind of an unscheduled day before you. And so it becomes really important that you figure out what should I spend my time on? I mean, there's not somebody sitting over your shoulder saying, oh, here's the first few things that you need to do, and here's what I expect to see by the end of the day. And so a couple things that have been really helpful for me are, number one, planning my day, so that I don't just have a bunch of time and like a mental list of things that need to get done, saying from this time to this time I'm going to do this. Here's the important things that I need to get done. So that allows me to kind of prioritize my schedule. And the second thing that kind of is in connection with prioritizing and scheduling out my time is creating my own system of accountability. I think everybody needs accountability, whether you are a business owner or an employee, or whether you're working on self-improvement in any realm. Personal accountability is a hugely, massively important thing that allows you to kind of check in, whether it's with yourself or with other people. And one thing that I know about myself, I know myself well enough to know I'm not a good accountability partner for myself, because I'm very lenient with myself. And so if I tell myself I'm going to do something today and I don't do it, it's easy for me to go, oh, well, I'll just do it tomorrow. And so it's important for me to have I call them accountability partner, somebody that I can check in with and say, hey, I got this thing done, or hey, I didn't get this thing done. That's going to say, why didn't you get that thing done? And then I can get really honest with myself, and I can either make up an excuse and say, well, I got really busy and did this and that. Or I can say, you know what, I didn't plan my time very well, and I got lost off doing this other thing, and I spent way more time on it than I should have. So, I mean, those are like at the very, very beginning stages where I'm at right now. Those are a couple things that are jumping out at me that feel new all over again, and that have been really important for me.
And do you have a specific accountability partner?
I do. So I actually have a couple. I have a couple of accountability partners around a couple of different things. There's because one other thing that I will say that I think is true, whether you are a new entrepreneur or whether you've been running your own company for years, running a business is a very lonely place. You know, there is a lot of responsibility that falls on your shoulder. I mean, all of the responsibility essentially falls on your shoulders. And it's very easy to feel overwhelmed, to feel stressed. And so I have an accountability partner around just kind of my emotional state that I check in with every day, around just how I'm doing right now, how I'm feeling, like what things are frustrating, what things I feel like I'm feeling really great about. And then I have an accountability partner around the tasks that I want to get done every day and the things that I want to accomplish. Two different people. And those two things are really helpful for me to, like I said, make sure that I'm practicing integrity and also make sure that I am aware of where I'm at. Because you don't want to deceive yourself as a business owner and think that things are better than they are or think that things are worse than they are. You want to have a really good grasp on reality and where you're actually at.
My accountability partner is my wife.
Yeah, I was going to say, Gary and I have breakfast every Monday morning.
And Jeff is my other accountability.
Yeah, and he tells me about the chores he's had to do over the weekend with his accountability partner, making sure
and
that
I better
gets
do
done.
it.
So I suspect that from a startup perspective, and also just from your experience, Chris, that many entrepreneurs have finite, limited budgets when they're getting up and running, and with your new company, with any new company, you still have to get the word out in terms of a marketing strategy, and you've spent time really focused on digital marketing strategies. When you're thinking about your business, when you're working with clients, helping them develop that digital marketing strategy, what sort of elements are you focusing on, or do you suggest your clients focus on? How do you sort of work through that process?
Yeah, so I mean, that's another area that's really easy to get overwhelmed in, because you kind of, most businesses want to do everything, and you want to do everything all at once. It's like, I need a website. Once I have my website, I need to run ads, and I need to have, I need to be doing SEO, and I need to be producing content, and I need to get a blog together, and I mean, all this stuff. And one of the struggles that I see a lot of newer businesses run into is trying to do too much at once. And so what I usually recommend for businesses, and what I'm doing for myself, I mean, you need to figure out, where are my potential customers? Where are my potential customers? Do they know that they need what I have? So if you're selling a product, if you're selling toothbrushes, that's a really established market. That's, people, there's a demand for it already. There's a need for it already. And so there are specific places where people are going to be looking for toothbrushes, or are going to be in the mindset and be open to hearing about toothbrushes. However, if you are selling some new innovative product, I worked with a company that had developed a new mouthwash that altered the pH levels in your mouth, that essentially prevented you from getting cavities, and which was a really fascinating product, a brilliant invention, but no one's searching for that, right? There's not a market necessarily. There's a lot of people who would buy it, but they're not looking for it. And so
certainly not under pH level of my mouth. That's not a very good concept there.
Right. And so you've got to figure out, where are my potential customers? Do they know that they need what I have? So like in my particular case, one of the challenges that I have with my business is most businesses don't know that they need conversion rate optimization. Most businesses will create a website and say, okay, I've got the website figured out. Now let me go and figure out my ads, and I'll start driving traffic to my site. And so if I was to market on Google, for example, Google is a demand-based platform. If I want to run ads on Google, I'm going to be running ads for things people are searching for. So I'm going to be running ads for digital marketing and website optimization and conversion rate optimization and those kinds of things. But if nobody's searching for that, and I've tried this before, I tried running ads on Google and it failed miserably because the people that need it are not looking for it. So the first thing is figure out where your customers are. Do they know that they need what you have? And then the second thing is that I would suggest is focus and do really, really well at one thing before you start another thing. So if you're selling toothbrushes and you're going to do Google, don't try Google and Facebook and Amazon and, wholesale. Do one thing really well and focus on that, because that allows you to focus your budget and gather a lot of data. Marketing, doing really good marketing is about gathering data and pivoting and adjusting as you move forward. And so you need to be able to devote as much of your budget as you possibly can to a single marketing channel so that you can figure it out, gather data, stop doing things that aren't working, start doing things that are working, and then move on. So, for my business, there's two places that I primarily find people. One is via conferences and other places where people are consuming content. And the reason that that's a great place for me is people are in the mindset of learning, right? They're looking to learn something new. So I'm not looking for people that are looking for my service. I'm looking for people that are looking to learn and looking to improve their business and their marketing strategies. And it's also a great place for me because I'm able to explain why people need it in that kind of a forum, right? You can't explain why people need your product in an ad very well. You can try, but you can't do it very well because you usually have to address somebody's pain point. You usually have to give them a solution. And if the solution is complicated, it's hard to communicate that in 140 characters, right? And so,
we'll give you 280.
And so,
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
But we'll give you 280 characters, but good luck with that.
Yeah, right. So that's kind of what I usually am looking at when I'm helping businesses is figuring out what do your customers need? Who are they? What can we say? So on the website front, my focus is primarily on helping my customers figure out their website and figure out what do people need to see, what information do people need to see, what visual experience do people need to see in order to want to buy your product. And so that's a lot of what I'm trying to figure out is where are these people at now? What do they know right now? And then let's try giving them different amounts of information, because a big mistake that I see a lot of businesses make on their websites or landing pages is you assume you know what people need. You assume you know what information people want to see. And so one of the first few things that I usually will help my clients test is I classify them as value propositions. Or in other words, what is unique about your product or service? Why should people buy this or work with you? And usually when I ask business owners, what are your value propositions? They'll give me a list of like 10 or 15 things. And it's like, if I'm selling a product, it's like, well, it's made in the USA and it's the best quality, materials, and it's, money back guarantee, and, this innovative new technology and free shipping and, yada, yada. I mean, you'll just go through this whole list of things. And the truth is, when somebody is looking, when somebody comes to your website, it's not 5 things that's going to sell them or 15 things that's going to sell them. There's usually 1 or 2 things that are going to strike a chord with your particular customers. And so if those people cannot find those 1 or 2 things, and if you don't know what those 1 or 2 things are, then people are going to leave your website and they're not going to convert. And so it's important to figure out what are those 1 or 2 things and how can we feature them on the site in a way that immediately connects and resonates with people when they come.
You talked a little bit about A/B testing, where I guess you're putting some options out there and trying to determine how people respond to those options. I mean, is that is that the best way to optimize a website at this point in time? I mean, I guess you can do some research, talk to customers, try to understand their thinking, but ultimately is the proof in the pudding based on how they respond to those different options that you throw out there?
Yes, and so I'll share with you. A lot of times I'll ask companies, have you ever done any kind of A/B tests before? And probably 90% of the time people say yes. And I'll say, okay, tell me what you did. And probably 90% of those 90% of people will say, oh, well, we redesigned our site and we launched our new site and we compared our conversion rates last week to our conversion rates this week, and it looks like it's performing better. So it looks like the new site works really well. The problem with that is there's a few problems. First of all, that's not an A/B test because that would kind of be like if somebody has a headache and I say, they have a headache today, and I say, okay, try some ibuprofen. And then tomorrow I ask them, how's your headache doing? And they say, oh, it went away. It's like, oh, well, is that because you took ibuprofen, or is it just because your headache went away and we're looking at, tomorrow, now suddenly you don't have a headache, right? And so that's not a good test. What you need to have one person that takes ibuprofen with a headache, one person that doesn't take ibuprofen with a headache, and then you ask them both the next day, how are you feeling today? And if they both don't have headaches, then it's like, okay, well, it's not the ibuprofen that did it, just the headaches were going to go away. But if the guy who took the ibuprofen doesn't have a headache, and the guy who didn't still has his headache, it's like, okay, well, we've got a good, some good data here, right? And so that's what you need is you need a sample over the same period of time with the same people that are either experiencing one version of your site or another. There's a lot of great A/B testing tools out there. In fact, Google has a free A/B testing tool called Google Optimize that is really easy to set up, and it allows you to create these duplicate versions of your website and change things, and it allows you to split traffic between the two versions of your site. And the other thing that I say to people, kind of along the headache example, with the website is, how do you know your conversion rates weren't going to go up anyways, right? Like maybe the weather was bad last week, and so people weren't looking for your product. Maybe people didn't go to work last week, and so they weren't searching for your product, or they weren't in the mindset of converting. Or maybe, something happened in the economy this week that changed the mindset that people were in, and they're more likely to convert this week than last week, or less likely, right? I mean, maybe you launch a new website and it fails miserably. And maybe your website was gonna not do well anyways. And so that's where doing the A/B split test is critical, because we're getting data during the same time period with all other factors being the same, and we can just test those differences on your website, the things that we're changing. And so that is the best way to learn what people actually want, without having there be a large chance that like something random just happened and you think you're learning something, but you're not.
So you're trying to minimize and control the variables that you've got out there.
Exactly.
You've also worked with search engine optimization, SEO. Job number one is helping them find the website. Then you're also trying to convert them into customers once you get them there. What do you tell clients in terms of SEO these days? Any tips that you can share with our listeners on that one?
Well, so I mean, SEO, search engine optimization, and what I do with optimizing the website are very aligned in their purpose. Search engine optimization is about getting ranked on Google, because once you get ranked well, then people are going to click on your thing, come to your website, right? And so, the better your ranks, the more traffic you get. And what Google is trying to do, when Google is ranking websites, they're trying to figure out which website has the thing that people want, right? Like that's ultimately what Google's fancy algorithm is trying to do. It's trying to figure out what do people want and which website has what they want, right? And so there's a lot of different ways that Google will try to analyze whether or not a website has what people want, right? I mean, historically, the most powerful thing has always been, are people linking to you? Because theoretically, if people link to your website, that means that you have something valuable there, right? But links have been increasingly devalued over time. That doesn't mean they're worthless. They're absolutely still important. But links have been increasingly devalued over time because Google realizes, well, people can just build links to their own site without, so links aren't the only thing, right? Some of the things that Google looks at now is, are people engaging with your brand, right? I mean, When you post on social media about your site, do people engage with those posts? Are people clicking on your links from social media and coming to your site? Like, do people actually click on those links that are built to your site? Google also looks at a lot of on-site metrics. So because Google has an infinite amount of data, and most websites have Google Analytics set up, Google knows how long do people stay on your site? How many pages do they visit on your site? Do they actually end up, converting or purchasing or signing up on your website? They know this stuff, and so those things also influence your conversion rates, or your SEO rankings. Are people actually staying on my site and engaging? And that's where conversion rate optimization can really help, because if you can figure out how to get people to convert on your website, if you can figure out how to keep them on your site and get them to click through to other pages on your site, you usually also increase your SEO rankings and your SEO traffic. So it's kind of a best of both worlds approach to figuring out how do I show Google that my website has what people want.
And going back a little bit to the conversion piece of it, and when you're doing A/B testing, do you find that there are any common changes or hints or strategies that you use with people? I mean, using more video, does that help with conversion? Is it primarily a content issue of just making sure that the value proposition is correct, or are there other things that you look at that you find enhance conversion rates, or is it totally depend?
There's lots of things. I will tell you that the couple of things that typically have the biggest influence on conversion rates, again, in general, and I'll give you an example of a test, a very simple test that just about any business could run with very little experience, that typically has very dramatic results. So one of the tests that I run, I call it an existence test. I call it an existence test because you want to test whether or not things should exist on your website. So I will usually go and I will look at a client's, I'll use like a home page as an example. And most people's home pages are quite lengthy. So if you're selling a product, or selling products, if you're like an e-commerce site, typically your home page is going to be like all of the products that you have. And usually at the top of your website, you'll have like your featured product or whatever products are on sale. You'll have a banner that's like 50% off these products. And then as you scroll down the page, it's like, and here's some of our categories of products. And here's some really popular products. And here's some client testimonials of our products, right? You can have lots of information. If you're a lead generation website, or if you are a service-based website, you're going to have on your home page, you're going to have at the top, you're going to have, we are, smart plumbing, to service all of your plumbing needs. And then you'll have like a button that says, get a quote. And then if they scroll down, you're going to have pictures of your whatever plumbing services, and you're going to have all of the different areas that you service. You're going to have a form somewhere on the page. But the bottom line is there's a lot of stuff that we put on our pages, right? There's a lot of stuff that's there. And so the first test that I usually will run with companies is, should all that stuff even be there? And so what I will do is, if you sign up for Google Optimize and you get your website set up in there, what I will do is I will create 1 or 2 or 3 different versions of your homepage. And in version 1, I will go in and I will say, let's remove that main offer that you have up there, because maybe that's not the best offer to have. So let's just remove it. That's all I do. You just go in, you click on it, you delete it. Very simple. Obviously, if you have a very complex site, it's a little bit more complex, but for most businesses, it's pretty simple. In version 2 of your site, instead of removing your main offer, I'm going to say, let's go down and let's remove this block of content that you have down here that's like describing your story and, why you started your business. Let's remove that. And then version 3, let's remove, whatever else is on the page. If it's a product site, let's remove all of these products that are down here and see what happens. And what happens with these types of tests, like I said, it's very simple to set these tests up. It takes less than a half an hour to set this kind of a test up. But what happens with these kinds of tests is one of 2 things. And either way, you have really great information that you're gathering.
This podcast is sponsored by Jackson Creative, a custom communication agency located in downtown Hickory specializing in online content creation. To learn more, visit thejacksoncreative.com. Jackson Creative, we tell your story.
So Chris, just as a startup, any other advice that you can share with folks as we wind things up a bit?
No, I mean, just, like I was just talking about with this existence test, you want to focus your website. You want to have a focus so that your site is very simple and straightforward for people. And so, like you were saying, less sometimes is more. Sometimes people do want a lot of information, but you're not going to know if they want more information until you run this kind of a test, until you test having more versus less, right? And if people want less, then give them as little information as possible. Try to figure out how simple can I make my website. If people want a lot of information, which does happen in some industries with some specific products. If people want a lot of information, then give them as much information as you possibly can. But ultimately, again, what my advice is don't assume anything. Even if you've talked to your customers, even if you have surveyed people, don't assume that you know what they want on your website. Try out different approaches. Try out different things on your site, and let your audience tell you what they want to see on the website. And you can learn very quickly with some of these types of tests. You can learn very quickly. You can see dramatic results. I've seen, single tests that have increased conversion rates by 60 or 70% from removing or adding things to the website because you're finding what people really want to see. And so, yeah, I mean, just approach your business with an open mind and be willing to adjust and make changes as you go forward. And I mean, you can have huge positive results with your marketing efforts and with your website.
That sounds good, man.
Very good.
We like to invite our guests to participate in our lightning round. You up for that?
Let's do it. I'm ready.
Okay, we're sponsored this month again by Ned Ryerson Insurance, so we appreciate their support of the program. But we're going to throw some quick questions out to you, and you can give us some quick answers. So we'll get started here. So number one, where is the place that you'd most like to travel?
I love going to Hawaii.
Okay.
Favorite place.
That's a good place to go.
Very good place.
Do you prefer to give or get presents?
I definitely prefer to get. I'm not a good present giver.
Okay. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Sorry, say that again?
Is a hot dog a sandwich? Yes or no?
No.
Okay. Yeah, there aren't necessarily right answers here, but you got that one right. Growing up, what was your favorite TV show?
For most of my life, it was Seinfeld. I still watch Seinfeld.
Okay, that's good. Is it okay to wear socks with sandals?
No way.
Last question. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
It would have to be the power of flight. I've always dreamt of being able to fly, and I think that'd be really cool. I don't know where I would go with that. Probably Hawaii.
Maybe Hawaii. That's good. All right, that works. Chris, if our listeners want to find you, where should they be looking for you?
So you can look me up on social media. I'm on LinkedIn. My name is Chris Daly. Dayley is my last name. I'm on Twitter. I will have a website up shortly, and it will be smart-cro.com. I would love to hear from people. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer questions. And I'll be working on getting some more information together about the new business.
Well, congratulations on starting your new business.
That's exciting.
And thank you for spending time with us today on the Entrepreneur Exchange. We really appreciate it. So.
Thank you guys so much for having me on the show. It's a pleasure.
Well, Gary, each month we try to share some small businesses of the month. Mm-hmm. And what sort of small business has come across your wire this week?
Well, mine is a cool idea that I'm going to highlight a product that's growing in popularity. I've not tried it, but I know there are a lot of people that think that I should because I don't sleep much.
I thought you were going to get into the weed business.
Well, we'll wait on, be patient.
Okay. All right.
But they know I don't sleep much, and they know I love sweets. So the product is Sweet Sleeping Gummy Bears. Have you heard of these?
I have not.
Chris, have you heard of these?
I have not heard of those.
Some people think it's a cure for jet lag as well as those sleepless nights. The gummy bears are laced with melatonin. Mm-hmm. Make a little sense because it can help with adjusting your body clock to adjust to new time zones or just when you're having a tough night. And there's nothing worse than that dreaded jet lag or a tired feeling in the morning when you haven't slept. It can be enough to ruin the next day. Melatonin works differently from standard sleeping tablets, which I do like, and it can help you adjust your natural body clock as opposed to, I don't take sleeping pills even though I should.
You're
Also available.
There are lots of drugs you seem to take, but go
Yes.
ahead.
And relax gummies. CBD, gummy bears.
Okay.
You knew I was going to get there, or you were hoping I would. Industrial hemp as the key product there. And these premium consumables infused with CBD from organic hemp plants to your daily wellness routine, and you'll handle your daily duties much differently. Smiley face I put there.
Smiley face. Okay.
That's a fun way to consume high-quality CBD is the relaxing gummy bears. It's an edible treat that lets you snack your way with a purpose.
So
How's that?
That's great, man. Now,
I didn't take any while I was writing this, but I felt like it.
Chris, I believe that you are in Utah. Is that correct?
I am in Utah.
And in North Carolina, sometimes we people here take a more conservative view on certain things, and I don't know how the laws are in Utah. I know that I've got relatives in Colorado that edible marijuana, or I guess recreational marijuana, is legal. What's the situation in Utah?
Recreational marijuana is not legal in Utah. People do consume like these kind of CBD products. I haven't personally, but I do know that those are very popular things in places like Colorado and California, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we have a lot of the CBD stuff going on here, but anyway.
Well, I'm on my way, by the way, because I am using gummy vitamins.
Okay, well, that's good for you, Gary.
So I guess the next step.
All right. Well, the small business of the month that I've got this one, and I don't even remember where I found it, but it's called Tin Lizzy. And I think you're going to appreciate this one, Gary. It's a do-it-yourself appliance repair company that
I don't do that stuff.
does everything online through a chat type operation. For one low payment, their technicians will be virtually there to help find out what's wrong with your appliance and tell you how to repair it. And that means that instead of having a house call at 100, 200, and keep going up type thing, they'll do a diagnosis for $25 and a repair for $30. You can download their Tin Lizzy virtually their app camera that you share with their technicians so they can see what you're doing and give you direction. And they can even draw things on the screen. All their technicians are certified and screened. Their founder's name is Mary Nelson, and she was having issues with her washing machine and spent 5 hours on the internet trying to figure it out and sort of came up with this idea of a do-it-yourself online appliance company and came up with the name Tin Lizzy because it's the nickname for Ford Motor Company's Model T car produced between 1908 and 1927. Henry Ford wanted to build a reliable car that was affordable for just about everyone, and to do that he had to make it on an assembly line using identical parts that were interchangeable. And, Gary, you and I really are not blessed with the handy gene.
No,
so
I lost it with my dad.
Well,
or my family lost it with my dad.
Well, my dad's still with me, but he didn't have that gene either. So tinlizzy.com understands that, and they provide experience and knowledge that the average homeowner lacks, allowing them to take on repair with confidence. The technician provides live chat. You can do their app. Anyway, it's pretty cool. You can check them out at tinlizzy.com. That's TINLIZZEE.com. Joe Bob says check it out. That's our small business of the month.
Very cool.
So anyway, we want to thank Chris Daly. Chris, thank you very much for joining us today. You can find Chris online, LinkedIn, DAYLEY. And as we said, Chris will be, you'll find him on his website soon at Smart CRO. Chris, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you guys for having me.
We want to thank the Mesh Podcast Network for hosting us. You can check out all the podcasts from the Mesh at themesh.tv. Subscribe to the Entrepreneur Exchange and any of the Mesh podcasts by visiting iTunes or visiting many of your usual suspect podcast sites. So anyway, appreciate you joining us. We'll look forward to talking again next month. Have a good one.
Take care.
You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.